All right. After a full 1 hour of taking a break, relaxing my voice, well, back. So yes, so as said before, like David Haye loses against Vladimir Klitschko, and because that was for the WBA Super Belt, technically Haye fought. Like, so by July the 2nd, he loses it when he fought for the inaugural unified title, the WBA. And on Wikipedia, it says here that the WBA, considering it as a super belt, because keep this in mind, the primary champion lineage primarily was Jack Dempsey in 1921 and David Haye in 2011. The secondary champion lineage is the regular that we're talking about. So Vladimir Klitschko's win for this belt to Alexander Usyk in 2024 is the super belt. If that makes sense to you viewers. And what it's going to be interesting when I read the information about how this became a thing. But here's what makes things interesting. Now, the belt gets stripped away, and the WBA belt is gone, but it's still a regular champion belt. Mostly. So, Alexander Povetkin and Ruslan Chagaev, former champion, fight for the WBA regular championship belt on August 27, 2011. Now, the fight was uneventful, but even though it was a good win for mostly for Alexander, Ruslan would never become the same fighter again. Because here's the thing. He weighed 228 pounds when he defeated Nikolai. He stayed under 230 pounds. He was at 224 when he lost against Vladimir. Then 2010, he weighed 230 pounds and 31 pounds when he fought against Alexander Povetkin. He lost that fight, and then in 2012 to 2016, he would weigh 242 pounds, and he would be at 250 pounds at one point in 2013, October. Yeah, so Ruslan never became the same fighter again because of this. And Povetkin's title defenses are interesting. Like, December 3rd, 2011, he defeats Cedric Boswell. An interesting fight. It generated 2.12 million views on William Sutherland Promotions. Not much of a fight from ARD. On February 25th, he defeats Marco Hulk by majority decision, former Out Cruiserweight champion, and even though the fight itself did generate skills, and it was a really close fight, it generated big viewership numbers, but what made this interesting is that Atlas later said that he scored the bout 8-4 in favor of Hulk and questioned legitimacy of the match, feeling that the referee Louis Padden overly injected himself into the fight, saved Povetkin at the time, and kept Hulk from fighting on the inside. And when you viewers watch that fight, I'm sure some of you viewers will know what I'm talking about, but yet again, I didn't see the fight. I didn't watch the fight, but I am thinking about watching in the future. And then in September, he takes on former champion, past prime fighter Hasim Rotman. For reasons why Rotman is still into the fighting zone, I'll never know. He's still trying to fight for titles and such, but man, he loses in round 2 by TKO against Povetkin. Then 2 years later, he fights in his 20th anniversary of his year again for the Super 8 heavyweight tournament, loses quarterfinal in Australia and Auckland, New Zealand, and he never boxes again. And then he takes on Andrew Varchek in May 17, 2013. And he hurt the Polish guy so much that in round 3, the fight was over. So Alexander Poviekin's title reign wasn't that much until he got dominated by a Klitschko. Now, guys, here's what makes the information of Klitschko this interesting. So let's break it down. Alexander Poviekin and Vladimir Klitschko had feud with each other a long time before they fought in October the 5th, 2013. And what I mean by that, let me explain. They had a lot of opportunities back in the day for fighting big-time fights. Like Poviekin already won part of the IBF heavyweight title eliminator tournament against Chris Burr in 2007, and then the next year in January he defeated 30-0 Eddie Chambers for the eliminator, which was around the time when Klitschko was the IBF champion at the time. So what took them this long to fight? Well, okay, so Poviekin's number 1 in the WBA because of the belt and the champ. Poviekin retires out the belt in October the 5th because he lost against Vladimir Klitschko by all 12 rounds. The fight, it was bad. But the reason is, was Poviekin going to be ready to fight in 2008 if he was that able to fight him better than he did 5 years ago? Because you look back at it and you think to yourself, Poviekin wasn't ready. And after he had these amazing title defenses, and this was his 5th title defense for his WBA belt, and I'm going to explain because this is for the WBA Super Heavyweight Champion, but originally this was his 5th title shot if he won this belt, even though he won the regular belt. But if he won this fight against Klitschko, this would be his 5th title defense, even though it was his first one for the WBA Super. I'll explain that until the end of this podcast. So in December 13th, 2008, Poviekin withdrew due to an ankle injury. For the next 2 scheduled fights, even September 11, 2010, the fight was unraveled when Poviekin was in training in New Jersey at the time, but failed to attend a press conference in Germany. And the Poviekin camp claimed that the fighter had sinus problems and was unable to fly for 10 days. They had so much problems of trying to put these fights together back in the day that even after he defeated Ruslan Chagaev and then had this or that, I will say, though, this did generate big money. Like, guys, this is what I really want to talk about. Like, 150 countries were broadcast around the world at the time. It's such a crazy thing. It also stated that Vladimir Putin attended the fight, but he also unsuccessfully pressed for the fight to be postponed on October the 7th, his 60th birthday, because Vladimir Putin was going to become 60 2 days before this fight. 23 million people in Ukraine watched this fight, big time moneygoers, and like the money and the fight that was generated in this fight is crazy. You look back at it today and you think to yourself, damn, that's crazy. But how uneventful the 12-round fight was, and even though Klitschko was deducted 1 point in the 11th round, so all scores had 119 and 104, but it was bad. Like, the WBA had problems, and it was gonna get worse. But in July the 6th, 2014. 246 pounds of guts, White Tyson, Ruslan Chagaev, defeats past prime Freza Kendo in a minimum for the WBA regular champion by majority decision. Now, guys, I could talk about this fight if I want to all day, but what makes this fight more interesting is not the fight itself, but after the fight. Now, the fight, I will say though, guys, the fight was close. There were times that either fighter would have had a chance to win. But when you look back at it, it is interesting. By the way, fun fact, this took place on Hungaria Sports 1 at the time by a promoter named Timur Dugajev. He's been a promoter since 2014 to 2015. This was his debut promotion 40 years after Don King has Rumble in the Jungle. So seeing him, this random dude, be a promoter and have this fight to be on the line in Russia is crazy. He would also promote his second last show a year later when Ruslan defeated Francisco Pianeta by first round by huge KO punch. How did the fight end, you may ask, at 2 minutes and 57 seconds of the first round? Well, it stated on Bout Summary on BoxRec stated this. 2 hard left hooks to the head from Ruslan dropped the 6'5" tall Pianeta to all fours midway through the first, who would beat the count. Later, another overhand left to the head from Ruslan dropped Pianeta face first along the ropes in the corner, who beat the count at 9 but was out of it, forcing the stoppage. Southpaw Chagaev saw Pianeta's defensive hole early, loaded up on his power left, and scored it with pinpoint accuracy as Pianeta leaned forward, throwing the straight left awkwardly. That's all you have to know. And this would sadly be the last time this guy would ever promote a fight. Yeah, that's... But you want to know something bad about this promoter and the information I found? So it stated that after the fight ended by majority decision and given it, information stated that ultimately leading to the majority decision for the win of Chagaev, Okendo was not paid for his $1 million purse that he deserved when he lost his fight. So he sued the promoter and Shenzhen government in the Southern District of Court in a landmark case which Okendo won. Yeah, this promoter in his debut did not pay Okendo. He had one more promotion fight a year later promoting with Ruslan, and that was it. And the guy never became a promoter again. That was fishy stuff. And Okendo was never paid. Considering this was his last fight in his entire life, this forced the WBA and the Chagaev team to a rematch. However, Ruslan retired. Why did he retire? Well, here's the information. Now, guys, this is the information that makes things more interesting by the minute. This is my favorite topic to talk about, the WBA tournament. So here's the information you viewers have to know. Gilberto Jesus Mendoza Jr. would take over for his late father that passed away in March of 2016, sometime before or after Ruslan lost against Lucas Brown. Mendoza was a president for the WBA a long time, since October 7th, 1982, but then December 14th, 2015. His career was coming to an end. He had problems, struggling. He stepped down due to health problems, and his son took over. And the first thing his son did on January is decide to create a new dose of championships to declare who would be the champion of the WBA. So, guys, here's the information. Now, guys, remember when I talked about the WBA interim belt with John Ruiz and such in 2003 with Hasim Rotman? Well, the information stated on September the 11th, 2014, Luis Ortiz won first-round knockout against Latif, but later it stated that the fail due to a New York State Athletic Commission tested positive for a banned substance. Ortiz was vacated. He came back a full year and 13 months to fight against Matias Ariel, go round 3, KO win. He defended the belt a couple months later against Brian Jenkins after his loss with Vladimir. Only Lewis got him in round 7 by TKO, and that was it. He never defended the belt again. What does this have to do with him? Well, his next fight was going to be in February against Alexander Ustinov. But then Freza Kendo was already trying to order on a match, but we had a #1 ranked fighter from Australia, Lucas Brown, to take on Ruslan Chagaev. But around this time, after the end of 2015, is when Tyson Fury defeated Vladimir Klitschko, and they were going for a rematch around July. So what happened? Well, the WBA Gilberto Mendoza thought it was a good idea to make a tournament just so we will have only one champion in WBA. We have an interim belt. We have a regular belt. We have a super belt. Tyson Fury is the super. Ruslan Chagaev is the regular. And Luis Ortiz is the interim. So he made a tournament. So here's the thing. So this is what Gilberto Jr. said. And I quote, "In order to have one champion like everybody expected from the WBA, like everybody wants, we have set the following tournament. Now, Ruslan Chagaev will face Lucas Brown on March the 5th, 6 days before his father passed away, in Germany. The fight will take place in Germany, or so we thought. So we thought it might, but that's not true. But the winner of this fight must take Freza Kendo, who by U.S. court order earned his right to this fight. The next group will start with a fight between Vladimir Ustinov. Vladimir Klitschko versus Tyson Fury. When Klitschko and Fury met in the first time, it was a contract approved by the WBA that had a rematch clause that we pretended to respect. So the winner of this fight will have to face Luis Ortiz against Alexander Ustinov, the fight that was called for negotiations and the end period for February the 4th. In any case that they reach an agreement, we will have a purse bid that will determine the date and the fight and the place for each fight. Well, Luis Ortiz got his belt stripped away, and he had controversies for the next year in his life. He was going to take on Deontay Wilder in late 2017, but failed a drug test again, and it took them another year to fight that. Ustinov, well, everything else went down. That fight never took place, but I think Luis Ortiz would have won that fight. I would think Fury would have won that fight, and if I wasn't thinking to myself, I had a feeling Luis Ortiz would have beaten Tyson Fury if they were in the semifinals. But the winners of two groups will face for a world championship at WBA, and will only have one champion as everybody expects. That is not what happened. So yeah, the negotiations of Ortiz and Ustinov never took place. The drug test, this or that, cocaine, and the raw boar, wild boar, the Fury family, and the depression, that fight never happened. But this fight, Lucas Brown and Chagaev, did happen. And this fight, guys, I'm going to say a lot of interesting things about this fight. Now, guys, in all fairness, Ruslan Chagaev, his body, it's toasted. Like, Ruslan is just overweight, he's just out of it. He's 248.25 pounds. Lucas Brown is 250.75 pounds. This fight had a lot of problems. But yet again, there was some interesting moments in this fight that were somewhat interesting. Now, the feature bout of the evening, I love that that Michael Buffer would be part of the announcer of this fight. Now, guys, I did love the environment. Now, guys, they did say that the fight was going to take place in Germany, but it took place in Sports Hall in Grozny, Russia, the Coliseum. And I'll say, though, guys, now, rumors did stated, and some people did say that someone put food into Lucas Brown's plate. Someone put drugs in his system just so if Lucas did win the fight, they would have to give the title back to Ruslan. I think you viewers know what I'm talking about. There's people in the comments that did talk about this, and there's a lot of interesting. You viewers have to understand. It is hard to watch this fight, and understanding what's happening, because Chagaev is past his prime, 19 years in his pro career. He's never been knocked out. Lucas Brown has had more stitches, not a lot, than Chuck Wepner. So he's barely have an undefeated record of 23-0 in Australia, and is a bar fighter, is a bouncer in Australia. So it is hard for you to think that he deserved a case for this title. Guys, the environment of the Coliseum, the Coliseum was really awesome. I love that they have the statistics show their ages, because they're both in their mid-30s, over 37, 36 years old. Lucas is 1 year younger than him. I love that they're both wearing business suits and posing to the camera. I love that the Coliseum has this huge wide TV screen of the country's flag and their pictures with their business suits on, and it has their alias of White Tyson, which is Ruslan's alias name, as said before, and Lucas Brown, Big Daddy. I love that they have that. The environment was pretty. It seemed like it was like a friggin' Hunger Games vibe. Like it was so amazing. It was a great environment. And I love that every time Michael Buffer announces the first fighter, he announces Lucas Brown. And then someone played this heavy metal dubstep rock and roll song, which is kind of weird. And then the camera cuts to Michael Buffer. He has this frown face, just waiting for the song to stop so he can talk and to introduce the other fighter. That was the weirdest dubstep song I've ever heard. I think it was dubstep. But yeah. He announces the other fighter. He announces Ruslan. And they played that same exact tune. The camera cuts to his wife and a bunch of their families clapping on. And man, oh man, there's gonna be one fun story. I'll be talking about his wife, which is gonna be fun. I will say though. Just to let you viewers know, did you viewers know that now, guys? Ruslan Chagaev is not just the first country from Uzbekistan to become champion, but become champion twice, and become champion twice in his country. He's the first Asian to become heavyweight champion. Now, guys, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and other countries do that if you don't include, because I know some people who think that Asia countries, like the countries of Asia, are Philippines, Thailand, Japan, China, Korea's, North and South, and mostly Indonesia and India a little bit. But I don't think a lot of people think that, even though Russia does have a tiny bit of that understanding, that some people think it's a country of Asia, and Mongolia is Asian as well. But Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, some people don't think it's Asian, but it is Asian. It's part of the territory. Look up the map of a globe and you'll know. So when you see this, it's actually pretty great. An Australian taking on a two-time Uzbekistan champion, Southpaw, and the Australian is Orthodox. This is going to be a great fight, I thought. But yeah. I will say this, though, about the fight. So the fight starts out. They're both stunning each other. Now, Ruslan, you can see that his body is overweight. He's not in his weight, his body, his size. Even though he does manage to dance around the ring properly, is what it is the most to say. Fun fact, guys, I will say, though, about Ruslan is that from 2006 to 2015, he's been ranked in the Ring magazine in the top 10 for that entire decade, year in and year out, from 2006 to 2015. He's been in the top 10 every year. So for reasons why 2012 and 2013 were years that he was in the top 10, for his resume of how bad it was until he won his champion back in 2014 and 15, I'll never know. But at this moment, I'm sure he was still ranked number 10 at the time. The first round of the fight was starting up. Lucas Brown is circling around the ring while Ruslan is in the middle. And I will say, though, I did love... It was an interesting round for starters. There wasn't a lot to say much about it. It is weird that the commentators talk about how Lucas Brown has giant tattoos around his body, which does make you viewers think that this is just going to be a waste of time. The first round was for Ruslan, but each round was hard to judge. Believe me, it was a hard fight to judge. But I'm sure that Ruslan won each of several rounds. Now, the scorecard I have for each of my rounds that I gave to Ruslan, because he was the aggressor. He seemed like he was doing a little bit more of a job trying to back him up into the ropes sometimes, and there was times that Lucas wasn't doing a lot in offense. In all fairness, I really can't say that it was true. Like, I had Ruslan winning round 1, round 2, round 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. He knocked out Lucas Brown in round 6. Round 4 and round 8 were, I guess, Lucas Brown rounds, but it's up to you viewers to decide. It was 88 to 82, favoring Ruslan to win this fight, and but the fight was going to get crazier. Now, in round 3 would be the same thing, punches. There were times that Lucas managed to attack him once in a while, but Ruslan managed to come back and land punches of his own. But it was a hard fight. It was a hard fight to judge for me because there weren't landing a lot of punches and there wasn't a lot of offense in the first rounds. At least there were landing and throwing punches at each other, the same way as how Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua threw punches in the first couple rounds in their first fight in Madison Square Garden. It wasn't how bad the horrible Audrey Harrison and David Haye fight were when they first fought in the first couple rounds until round 3 became the deadly round, putting all your money in the fight. That fight was horrible because they weren't even fighting or even throwing a punch. So at least there was some punches in the fight. So in round 3, nothing crazy happened. I wouldn't say nothing crazy happened until the final minute of the fight, where we did got some good barrage punches on both of the fighters. Ruslan might have won the encounter of that fight in the round as well. And there were some interesting times where they threw some dangerous punches at each other in each of the round. In round 4, Lucas Brown managed to attack him early in the fight. He managed to attack him on and start throwing jabs after jabs in the fight. Ruslan was doing the same thing as well. Both of these fighters were throwing even jabs in each fight of the round. Like 1 minute, Ruslan would attack him. The next minute, Lucas would attack him back. So they were both attacking each other even on. Which goes to show you how hard this fight was to judge. Lucas Brown managed to win round 4. And then in round 5, they managed to start throwing more jabs. Like I said before, it's the same thing. There were jabs where they were throwing jabs at each other, but with only 1 minute, 45 seconds left of the 5th round, Ruslan would throw a right to the body, left to back up Lucas into the rope, but he would recover without not stumbling. And seconds later, they would start clinching out each other once in a while. There weren't a lot of clinches in this fight, which is great. Lucas would try to fight on hard as he could with Ruslan, and Ruslan would manage to he would handle himself as best as he could. Like I said before, it was another good round for, well, somewhat for Ruslan, I guess. But then we come to round 6. And round 6 became a really scary round for Lucas. Like, they both throw out combinations. In the first several seconds of the fight, nothing crazy happens. And then 40 seconds into the fight, commentator, 45 seconds into the 6th round with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left, the commentators point out there's a cut in the left eye of Lucas Brown, which I didn't know where that punch was from. I didn't know if it was the left punch combination or any other punch combination that was caused by that cut. But all we know is the round would get crazy. 40 seconds left of the round. 40 seconds left of the round. Ruslan would go for a right punch to the body and then duck him on, fake throw a left punch, right, a big left hand. Down goes Ruslan. He would recover from the round with Ruslan throwing more punches. And seconds before the bell ring, you can see that there's a shining spotlight down in the ring. And there's a child shadow boxing. I didn't know if I saw a kid, because before the bell was going to ring and Ruslan's cornering Lucas Brown into the corner ring, there's a kid jumping in the spotlight and he's just shadow boxing. It's so fucking hilarious. Like, he's shadow boxing, he's doing this, he's doing that, he puts his right guard up block, he's doing this, he's punching. Like, this kid is shadow boxing. Oh my god, that was so funny. Oh, man. And this kid is cheering, putting his arms up. Yeah! Oh, this kid is having a ball. If you viewers watch it, it's so funny. And then the end of the round is when Ruslan throws Lucas when he covers him to the ropes. And the bell rings. But even seconds after the bell rang, because I don't think the timekeeper rang the bell that loud, because Ruslan would keep punching him more until the ref stopped it. And by the way, the replay would show us a replay of the knockout. And the replay showed Ruslan threw a clean body shot and threw this left punch right on Lucas Brown's right cheek. Now, it might have not been a hard punch to aim it there, but right into the jaw of the cheek, that might have sting a lot to put him down. And then the replay shows Ruslan's wife in happiness. It's so great. She's not going to be happy for long. And then, guys, round 7 would be the most controversial round. Both guys are aiming, punching at each other, and then the child that was celebrating would be what's crazy is that the child that was shadowboxing would be next to the corner of Ruslan's corner, which now I'm thinking to myself, oh, it's his children. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway. By the way, it is crazy that child is having a good time. Like, he has the best seat in the house watching this up close. Man, I want to be in his shoes. So both of them are throwing punches at each other. Lucas managed to handle himself really good in the 7th round. He's injuring Lucas Brown, but then Lucas attacks him back and pushes him against the ropes. And then Ruslan hits him back in the ropes. And the crowd is celebrating crazy. And then with 1 minute left of the fight, or so we thought with 1 minute left of the fight, even the commentator stated that there's still a minute to go left in the 7th when they see Lucas Brown getting weary and such. Ruslan is using all his energy to try to take out Lucas. And with 2 minutes and 16 seconds of the 7th round, the bell rings. what? Even the commentators stated that there's still 40 seconds to go. Something was up, but yet again, can't say much about that. And also, the replay does show that huge left punch that Ruslan put onto Lucas Brown's left cheek. And you come to round 8, and Lucas Brown managed. It seemed like Ruslan was trying to recover his energy in this fight, and Lucas Brown managed to lay out some punches once in a while, get some good combinations. It was a close round. It seemed like I gave it to Lucas for the heck of it. And then in round 9, mostly, Ruslan managed to put out every single energy he tried to do. Both of them are trying to throw punches. They both hit each other's gloves in the first minute of this 9th round. And then Ruslan is using all his energy. He attacks back Lucas. And then the final 15 seconds left of the round, the last 15 seconds left of the round, I think he punched Lucas in the nipples. And then he throws a couple punch combinations. And Chagaev is, at this moment, is when Ruslan uses all his energy. A replay does show a huge good left jab on that Lucas Brown did to Ruslan. And then the 10th round comes to an end. They throw out combinations, they throw punches, and with 1 minute and a half into the fight, nothing crazy happening, but the same thing as ever. I'm surprised that there weren't a lot of clinches in this fight. And then with 1 minute left of the fight, Ruslan tries to corner Lucas as he always did in the first couple rounds when Lucas Brown was circling around the ring. Ruslan is the offender, southpaw, and Lucas is a orthodox defending. So this is how the fight ended. Lucas throws a tiny left jab, nothing, and then Ruslan throws this mighty left hook, completely misses Lucas. And then when you see Ruslan, he misses his left, but he does not hesitate to set up his right to punch Lucas. But then, right out of nowhere, Lucas sets up his right. They both hit each other. They both Lucas wobbled a tiny bit, but not much for him because Ruslan backs up a couple steps while Lucas is about to set up a punch, but down goes. He hit him. Lucas and Ruslan both threw their right punches at the same time, considering Ruslan is a southpaw, not an orthodox, so his right wasn't going to hurt Lucas that much. Lucas did the better of him. He gets hit so hard that he goes back a couple steps. Down goes Ruslan for the first time in his boxing career. Now, the commentator stated that he took his time getting back up, which is probably the best. And then the camera cuts to his wife in the spotlight with her hands cussed betwixt herself in scarediness. Commentator stated that he doesn't know where he is. Camera cuts to Lucas Brown and his bloody forehead and his nose. He attacks him on. He corners him in the rope. He throws left, right, left, right. And then he throws another right. And he corners him in the other rope. Uppercut, left, right. Like, he threw every single punch that he did to make the referee stop the fight. 2 minutes and 30 seconds of this fight. Or on BoxRec it says 2 minutes and 2 seconds, but in real life it was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And then he raises his hands. Lucas wins. The crowd shocked. And the most funniest moment, the camera cuts to Ruslan's wife. And seconds after that, his wife swipes the camera, telling him to go away, go F off. And what makes this moment so funny is that Lucas is trying to, his cornerman is celebrating. Crazy. Australian champion. Unbelievable. He's celebrating. And Lucas is trying to settle his cornerman down after the fight is over because his cornerman is going crazy. He jumps over the ring, celebrating. He's jumping. He's selling. Yeah! It's so funny. Oh man. Like, it's so funny. Oh my gosh. Every dumb moment is funny. And Brown, like, I'm sure, like at this moment, like, I will say though, guys, there were some moments. In defense of Lucas Brown's win here, because people said he won by luck, Ruslan, considering he's past his prime, he wasn't the fighter that he usually was 9 years ago when he defeated Nikolai. Like, when you viewers look at the fight, Ruslan had zero head movement and underestimated Brown. Ruslan did not have good head movement at the time, and it is what it is. It's even crazy. And guys, I will say though, guys, the crowd reaction and the crowd at the time, I wouldn't say they were pathetic, like one other person said in the comments. But yet again, when the crowd booed after when they announced the winner, it was, yeah. And then after all of that, this is history when the worst is yet to come. So Lucas Brown would take on Fresakendo. Nope. Originally, considering Ruslan Chagaev would get his title back in May of 2016, but Chagaev was stripped of his title for failing to pay sanction fees, and he was stripped a month later. So, yeah, you viewers are probably telling me, or you're actually asking yourself, what are you talking about? Lucas Brown is a champion. Well, no. Now, Ruslan announced his retirement in July of 2016. But the thing is this. Lucas Brown, since after the fight, he went back home, celebrated on March the 22nd, 11 days after Mendoza's father passed away, former WBA president. It stated that Brown failed a post-fight drug test. He was involved in Australian news reports. There's news on YouTube of him expressing his innocence. He was given a second drug test around the time when he did, and mostly it came on. There were information at the time that he didn't have drug tests. Someone said that someone put drugs in his system. Like I just told you, viewers. Like you viewers heard what I told you, viewers, of what happened. It was bad, and it stated that the substance was clenbuterol, which is bad to understand. This symptom is mostly for sufferers of breathing disorders, but still, it was bad. They had an A sample and a B sample, but then Brown produced another positive drug test. This time it was a banned substance of Asterion. Sometime later. at this moment, I felt bad for Lucas Brown. I do believe his innocence that he did not take drugs. And guys, if you guys go on Wikipedia and look up Lucas Brown and Ruslan Chagaev and see their record, it stated that the fight is a no contest. But in BoxRec, it still states that Lucas Brown won the fight. It still counts as him as a win. But people said that he's not WBA champion. I even looked up on Wikipedia, known as Wiki, list of WBA world champions, and it doesn't say Lucas Brown won. At this moment, it stinks because this part upset me so much that I don't understand, which is right. Someone in the comments said that Lucas Brown deserved the champion as they stripped him for it, but it still counted as a win. But on Wikipedia, guys, can people just tell me which is the truth and which is not? Yeah, I don't know. So instead, this is the part. So, like I said before, Chagaev decided not to pay his sanction fees for it. He decided to retire, never fight again. So they gave Lucas Brown another chance. November 2nd, 2016, he was ordered to fight American veteran Shannon Briggs for the title to take place in the end of 2016. But Brown was originally due to fight Freza Kendo, who hasn't fought in 2 years. But, however, the fight could not be made due to Oquendo recovering from an injury. Seriously? Another injury? There's going to be more injuries in the future for this WBA, ladies and gentlemen. And stupidity. Like I said, the WBA ordered this fight for Oquendo to fight within days. And, of course, there were times that he was going to... And, by the way, guys, there were rumors that he was going to have a match with Dillian Whyte. Yeah, and after the boxing strats, I don't know much about Lucas Brown as a great boxer at the time, but still, he deserves more respect. He took a full year off, took on a nobody, and then he was going to set WBO champion Joseph Parker at the time, which was one information, but after his loss against Dillian Whyte, he never became the same fighter again, and his boxing career just went to an end for the next... Since the end of 2018 and such, 2019, 2024 would be the years that his year in boxing was dead. I feel bad for him. And as for Shannon Briggs and everything else for the fights and other fighters at the time fighting for the WBA belt, the belt would be out of commission. Freza Kendo wouldn't get a title shot. Luis Ortiz out of this. The tournament title was dead, and Vladimir Klitschko was the only guy that was clean of everything. So what happened? Well, the tournament died, and they only had the WBA Super Champion to deal with. So, in April of 27th in 2017, they just had Anthony Joshua defeat Vladimir Klitschko, and yeah, that's when people said the tournament's dead. It's over. The interim belt's gone, and the regular belt's gone. Congratulations. Wrong. Because then... the WBA regular champion was back online again. Manuel Char and Alexander Ustinov on November 25th, 2017. This fight was a last-minute change for God knows why. Why? I don't understand. What the hell, man? So... Manuel Char had nothing to do with any of the WBA. He's already trying to survive an altercation in 2015 since he got shot by a drive-by shooting and had to recover, have a couple fights in 2016, took 14 months off. Ustinov is trying to have a title shot. He gets one. And the 12-round fight was, well, interesting. The fight was interesting, but it was uneventful. Manuel Char wins, becomes the first German boxer to win after 85 years since the last champion in 1930 to 1932 of Max Schmeling. But people still talk about, despite that the secondary title was, the regular title was secondary due to the WBA Super Belt, was won by Anthony Joshua. Nonetheless, Char, and also on Wikipedia, on BoxRec, it also states that the fight stated that Manuel knocked out Ustinov in round 8. It also stated that Char also became the first Lebanon's world champion because of where he was born. He was born in Syria, but raised in a residence of United Arab Emirates. But his nationality is Germany. But he's also first Lebanon champion. So he's a Syrian champion from Syria because that's where he's born. a German and Lebanon. That's pretty interesting. And then in 2018, he was going to take on Fresakendo, but then he failed a drug test. But it was just an extra warning. It was a slap on the wrist. Don't worry, he didn't lose the title. It was going to take place around September of 2018, where the fight was going to take place for the WBA champion for him and Fresakendo, but the fight never took place. Like I said, this was supposed to be for the mandatory fight. Instead, in August 2018, before that information came, we had Trevor Bryan taking on BJ Flores, washed up for the WBA interim belt in a fight that was never televised. Reporters say that Flores was knocked down several times, a bunch of times in round 3 and 4. And Trevor Bryan, well, as for him, we already talked about that he was the second pick for the Anthony Joshua and Jarrell Miller fight, but Andy Ruiz was picked instead. And I did say, to be honest, Trevor Bryan would have gotten his butt beaten by Anthony Joshua that night in Madison Square Garden because his boxing style was not the same thing as Andy Ruiz. So thank God that history was never the same. As for the fights for 2019, they were going to schedule a Rumble in a Jungle 45th anniversary for Don King, running a promotion for Rumble in the Jungle for Char versus Bryan. Fight never materialized and it failed. But around 2020, they were going to stage the fight for a second time with Don King getting a purse bid of $2 million. But the fight was on hold due to COVID. Around December and January, they're going to have the fight in America on the 29th. But instead, we got Bryan versus Berman Stavern. The fight ended when Stavern was knocked down twice in round 11, and that's all you have to know. What happened to the belt? Everything else, information-wise, is bad. Because Char did not fight in America. Mahmoud Achar never boxed in America his whole life, but he would be declared championship in recess, and he would hold on to the belt for a long time until December of 2021. Sadly, this is information-wise. So the thing is, Manuel Achar has only fought in Europe his whole life, and that was it. He never boxed in America, so because this fight was going to take place in America, he couldn't find a contract to sign due to getting visa for money at the time, and this was a cost for a problem because the visa problems were coming by so much for Mahmoud Achar that Don King can outclass him, and that's what he did. And come in January of 2020, in May of 2021, he took on a stupid hype job of Christopher Lovejoy and won the fight. Cartwheel failed attempt. Someone said that fight was for the title, but even though the fight was a 12-round fight, but technically, was it for the WBA title? Why? No. Still, Mahmoud Achar would fight a couple more times in 2022 and win fights. So he was still active winning fights. He didn't fight in 2023, and I don't think he's going to fight in 2024. But more on that in just a minute. But they were going to have a fight in December to fight in January 29th and 2022. And also, guys, in June of 2021, after Daniel Dubois tried to recover from his loss in October against Joe Joyce, he took on a nobody, winning the WBA interim belt. Took on a nobody in August, and then the belt was stripped away from him, but he was still the mandatory fighter for the WBA. So information-wise is this. Char did not get a visa. He didn't get nothing. So in January the 1st, someone out of nowhere decided to put a random nobody from friggin' oh my gosh, someone decided to find someone from Louisiana, Jonathan Goudry, and put him ranked number 13 in the WBA. They took the bait, and guys, I don't want to talk about the fight because I'm upset that fight. He lost the fight, controversial, blah blah. That's it. And Bryan and Goudry did fight an amateur in 2011 at one point, so interesting history there. And Bryan won the fight, but I wish Goudry won this fight. Screw it. Come June the 11th, Daniel Dubois got his title shot. If Bryan wins this fight, he'll get on this unified fight with Alexander Usyk. No, never came. He lost against Dubois in round 4. all that time was a waste of time. The only thing Brian was good during the time of the build of the fight was the only thing good that Brian was doing during the build-up of the fight of Daniel Dubois was making fun and saying horrible things about him of how he lost against Joe Joyce. That's all he was good at. It just goes to show you so much of this, this or that. Oh, you so it's so bad. You want to know what made? I can't even talk straight right now. Do you want to know what makes this worse? Daniel Dubois should have never won against Kevin Morena in December. Why? Now, guys, I know some of you viewers know that there's information that the 3 knockdown rule in boxing is gone, but WBA rules and WBA championships do allow 3 knockdown rules. Daniel Dubois injured his leg or sprained a part of his body, got tripped on, and got knocked down by 3 weak knockouts by African Kevin Morena. He should have never continued to fight, and the referee let him continue. He got him in round 2 and knocked him in round 3 and retained the title. This sucks. And yes, we already know about how Daniel Dubois lost against Alexander Usyk, but what a way to end the WBA. Well, guess what, guys? There's still more to it because 5 days after the Daniel Dubois versus Alexander Usyk fight, on August the 31st, during the time when Deontay Wilder was number 1 in the WBA and Martin Bacall was number 2, and I thought to myself, days after the fight, I was saying to myself, oh wait, they're going to have those 2 fight for the title. Manuel Achar would go to court, and I'm sure Manuel Achar was actually preparing to go to court after this fight, because 5 days later, they would reinstate his title. A court settlement to order that he was going to take on Jarrell Miller on October the 14th. But by eliminated standards, the deadline came and went when Miller failing to materialize a reported financial issue. So he decided to take on Daniel Dubois from Day of Reckoning. Not a good idea. So the WBA granted a 60-day extension to find a new opponent. So they found Kubrat Pulev. Kubrat Pulev, after his loss in 2022 against Derek Chisora with his 3rd loss and still trying to recover from his other title losses, he takes on Andrew Varchek in a 10-round fight, which was so bad because Andrew Varchek was the guy that lost against Alexander Poviekin a while back. Yeah, he was a nobody. But then Kubrat Pulev would actually fight on March the 30th in his country of Bulgaria against Ihor Shevarduzovsky. What? You were supposed to take on Manuel Achar. Oh, and by the way, he also defeated the Hulk that night, winning a 2nd streak fight. But what happened? What happened? Well, it later stated that Char tore his bicep in training due to the fight was postponed for September. Are you kidding me? Guys, I hope this fight does take place in September, and I hope Kubrat Pulev beats him up. And that's the end of the WBA story. Well, guys, I have one more piece of information to tell you guys that's not it. Now, Manuel Achar is still WBA champion. And by the way, I just hope, guys, if Manuel Achar decides to have another injury again in the month of September before this fight happens, I hope they strip him for that title. I just hope to God they do. Like, it's so bad. You want to know what's even worse? I have a sore throat. And you want to know what's even worse? In 2019, in February of 2019, speaking about Joe Joyce defeating Daniel Dubois a year and a half before they had that fight, Joe Joyce decides to take on Bermane Stiverne for the WBA inaugural gold title. He knocks out Bermane Stiverne. First of all, let me eat this lightsaber first. He knocks him down in round 3, finishes him in round 6. That's it. He defeats Brian Jenkins in July that same year, wins. And then Robert Helenius gets that upset victory against Adam Kownacki in March the 7th. You know what makes this worse? June the 7th, 2024. You think Don King is going to give up these titles and the whole interim champion? No, he doesn't. People think the interim champion is gone. All other belts should be gone. Dude, Gilberto Mendoza Jr. tried to fix this problem a long time ago, since 2016. And these ideas are still messed up. We don't know who's a champion no more. Which is legit. And of course, Michael Hunter defeats Cassius Chaney. Dude. This is ridiculous. Are you kidding me? So any second now, if Manuel Char gets injured again and they decide to vacate this belt, any second now, Michael Hunter, the guy that lost in that exhibition bout a while back in 2023, that before taking on Cassius Chaney in that uneventful crap fight, he could defeat Kubrat Pulev easily if they decide to put the title on the line against these two, because Kubrat Pulev also won the WBA International title when he defeated the Hulk in March the 30th, the guy that replaced Manuel Char. You know what makes this moment worse? Two-time heavyweight champion Manuel Char. What a joke. You want to know what's crazy? Guys, you viewers want to know something crazy? There's a lot of controversies in boxing, and the WBA is no exception. And on Wikipedia, this talks about the controversy of fragmented champions. And in 2021, information went sky high. But you want to know something crazy about fragmented champions? About the WBA Gold, Interim, and Regular, and how the Super Belts, these 4 belts, became the whole starter of the WBA, was because of Lennox Lewis. Let me explain. The most prominent designation is that the WBA Super Champion, which was created in 2000 following a suggestion of Lennox Lewis after he was forced to relinquish his title prior to his defense of Michael Grant, blah, 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 distinction of the WBA champion, this or that, who are simultaneously recognized as the other categories of the champion. So the WBA Super is a major, like the other 3 belts, afforded special consideration in the organization's respect for meeting mandatory defenses, obligations to maintain championship recognition. So this is information you guys gotta listen. It also has opened the door for the organization to recognize a separate world champion, commonly referred as the regular champion, creating confusion among fans as to who holds the de facto championship title. Some world champions have been upgraded to WBA Super Champion status without winning another organization title. Among them, Floyd Mayweather Jr., Chris John, Anselmo Moreno, and Manny Pacquiao. Or upon defending their WBA title 5 times or more times, depending on the regular champion, upon weighting the WBA Super Champion, the regular champion has status that deemed vacant, whereupon it is filled by the organization as a separate championship. Like on March the 5th, 2021, Clarissa Shields became the first inaugural WBA Super Women's Champion in the light middleweight division. So, guys, let me explain. Now, guys, let me show you viewers some interesting information. Now, guys, I'm sure some of you viewers don't know about this, so let me explain. If you became a WBA regular champion, guys, let's just say Alexander Povetkin, defending his title for the 4th time, his 5th title defense was against Vladimir Klitschko. If he won that fight, that would have been his 5th title defense, even though he was fighting for the WBA super belt. So let me explain. Guys, I'm sure you viewers don't know the fighter named Thamanoon Niamontrong, a.k.a. Knockout CP Freshmark, WBA Super World Minimum Weight Champion in the minimum weight division. It's stated that around 2016, he defeated Brian Rogers for the minimum weight belt. He defended it not once, not twice, 3, 4, 5, not 6, but 7 times since August of 2019. But then, in March the 3rd, 2020, he was given the WBA Super World Minimum Weight belt. And you know what's crazy? They counted that as his 8th title defense. And then in 2021, he defended the belt with a couple knockouts, which was his 9th and 10th title defense. So technically, even though he defended this super belt 3 times and defeated Moonstreet in 2022, which was his 4th title defense for the WBA Super, or his 3rd, it still counts as his first title reigns because of his first 7 title defenses with the WBA regular. So technically, he has 11 title defenses. So that's what makes this whole confusion about which belt's considered legit. But one more piece of information. The WBA further complicated this from time to time, recognizing an interim champion ostensibly in cases where a designated world champion is for some reason prohibited from making a timely defense of their title. Under such conditions, the interim title holder is to be the next person to compete for one of the full championship titles once the champion is in position to compete. In practice, however, this actually occurred rarely in 2019. The organizations began awarding the WBA gold, for which no provision exists, even within the organization's own governing documents, in December of 2019. For example, they simultaneously recognized WBA Super Anthony Joshua, regular Manuel Achar, the interim Trevor Bryan, and the gold Robert Helenius in the heavyweight division. It's so crazy that this is what we get for WBA. The WBA tried to come up with so much stuff. Guys, Gilberto Mendoza Sr. tried his best to get rid of this, but his son made it worse. No matter how much he tried to fix this in 2016, it failed. Why? For 2 reasons. One, because of Don King and promoters that don't want to lose their chances for having a great championship fighter in their promotion. And 2, incompetence of people like this. No matter how much you try to stop these people from having multiple championships, it's never going to go away.